Edwin Diaz and his trumpets that did not play on.
Oh, yes. He will not have
Talk
trumpets
about the
for 10
closing
days now.
segment. You will not have trumpets for 10 days after that substance, which that was a clear substance, okay? But
Oh, yeah.
I
That
I,
like
I want to get into this
I'll
kind of
try to toss up a picture of it on screen or something, but like that was really kind of obvious.
I want to kind of get into a little bit. That was obvious, but how do we measure that nowadays, right? The
The
umpire kind of just,
stickiness.
well, okay, the umpire just goes
Maybe like
as you're walking off the field. I see it all the time
yep.
at lug nuts games. I kind of just
Yep.
like,
Yeah.
okay, but yes, but there's other things you should be watching for, right? Like,
Mhm.
I'm not,
Like,
again, I'm
reaching
not,
up behind the ear on the neck or like the wrist or, rubbing certain parts of the glove. Yeah.
but,
The other thing for me is if it is like sweat and rosin,
mhm,
which is allowed, even sunscreen mixed with it because a lot of the times you're playing in the sun. So, say that you put some rosin on your hands or whatever, and you have sunscreen on them and you're sweating. Well, that
mhm.
makes a pretty sticky substance. Are you going to get in trouble for that? And there's a really fine line.
And that's kind of where that fine line was when they introduced that rule. There was, I think, a
Mhm.
bunch of ejections. It's been a long day.
Yeah, yeah.
Long ejections on from the Astros side, actually.
Yep.
If you look at
Max
Framber
Scherzer
Valdez,
dropping his
Max
pants.
Scherzer, that was a wild one. Um,
Yeah.
but there's a bunch of different interpretations. It's kind of like um the obstruction rule on second base
Hmm.
that we've seen recently. A
Or at
judgment
home,
called it.
even.
Yeah, and it's not reviewable. So, for example, what I'm talking about here for your audience that might not know, I'm gonna pop out of my chair here if it lets me. There it goes. Um, so the second base here, if you look up New York Yankee, okay, now I'm out of frame.
Yeah, there you
New
go.
York Yankees or the White Sox, right? You look at those, I don't understand how either of those were really anything.
Yeah, they've
Like
definitely made some questionable calls. And
let's say,
then
can you see my chair? No, you can't see my
I
chair,
can see the
right?
very top of it.
Okay, all right. So let's say the very top of it is second base, right?
Yep.
Runner is like here, and the base runner is like going backwards. How am I meant to get around? Like I'm not looking at the where everything's going in a field where I'm looking at the ball in that situation, right?
Right.
I'm not looking at where the um fielder is. I mean,
Runner
yes,
is,
I am in
yeah.
the corner of my eye, but there's nothing I can do in that situation either.
Right. No, Justin Turner the other day also his helmet came off and they ruled him safe, even
That
though it
was
was touching his body. I believe it was.
well, okay, so here's
I
the
thought that
question
was
for you.
interesting.
Do you do you rule the helmet a part of the player at all times, even if it flies off his body? Because if it's touching his body, which it was kind of in his arm
Hmm.
slot situation, yes, it kind of blocks the situation of him being called out, but he didn't tag the player at the end of the day. He tagged the
The
helmet that
helmet.
fell off
Yeah.
the body.
So by rule, the
Hmm.
helmet is not part of the body.
Right.
But earlier this year, you saw Pete Crow Armstrong remove his helmet and use
Hmm.
that to tag the base, which should have made him out
Right.
because it's one, you're using part of your uniform to extend your body, which is illegal.
Hmm.
Um, and also it's not part of your body.
Right.
So it's meant to, that sucks. You should have tagged it with your hand. And they called him safe. So if that's the interpretation of the rule, which
It's
maybe MLB said to whoever is umping that and the other umps, that was the wrong call. Now it needs to be enforced this way, and that's why
mm,
the Justin Turner thing went like this. But if you're using the same logic of the Pete Crow example, I would think that not Trey Turner, Justin Turner would be out
yeah.
in that situation because it was touching its body. It would be an extension of his body because it was also impeding the tag.
Mm.
But I don't know.
That's the hardest part because I don't know if MLB came out with a 2-minute report like they I hate That's the other thing. ML, NBA or whatever sport, NHL, whatever, they come out with these nonsense 2-minute reports that has about 10 zillion calls in them that says Zach Wheeler should have blown his whistle because Jonathan kicked him or whatever. I don't
Yeah.
know. But like
Like
if
how
we're
Zach Wheeler's a referee in this
yeah,
sense.
yeah, the first name that came to my head randomly, okay? Um, but the, you would think because we have the logistics of video replay,
Mhm.
video review, I don't care how many times you stop the game. You're already stopping the game enough for 4 minutes of commercials every time I turn around. If you're gonna come out with a 2-minute report, you have the technology to say, hold on a second, especially under 2 minutes when that
Yep.
call is needed to be made. Let's quickly go, well, maybe not quickly, but let's go over to that replay monitor or listen to our earpiece or
I was gonna
whatever
say,
that sport is. And think about it. Like, especially in that situation I talked about earlier. I don't know where that Justin Turner situation
yep.
was. Um, but the White Sox and Yankees situations were bottom of the ninth, a runner on, team was
Mhm.
down, 1 run. Okay. Not saying we know that runner would have scored, but let's
Right.
go into hypotheticals here. You have 2 outs,
Yeah, at least
another batter
extends the
comes to
game.
base, and it at least extends the game. So those official moments, you should. I don't care if a team doesn't challenge it. You should have maybe an umpire or a crew chief that always has his earpiece
Yep.
in. Like,
Yep. That's what
what
I was gonna
umpire?
say.
What umpire in the field doesn't do a whole lot during the game? I mean, I guess it depends on when there's runners, which runners on which side, but like,
Yeah,
what umpire?
I think crew chief should have one in. And it might be the NFL that does this, where like they have somebody watching all of the replays and then they'll radio to them to be like,
That's
hey, this
college
needs to be
football.
challenged. Okay.
NFL doesn't do that for whatever
Okay, it's
reason.
college football then. Okay. So I think that that's what they kind of need to do. Um, just have New York be looking at all these games. If
Yeah.
something like that comes up, they can look at it real quick and be like, hey, you guys need to go review this, or hey, we're going to review this real quick and we'll let you know.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's up to the discretion of the team or the umpires there anyways. Um, but yeah, like if something like that happens, I don't think it would be too hard to do. They already have a control room there that's doing this stuff for replays
Yeah.
anyways. I think you just have a person or two watching for these instances. And being like, hey, you guys should take a second look at this so you make sure you get it right, especially in the bottom of the ninth, or eighth, ninth inning, high leverage situations, stuff like that.
Speaking of second looks at things, Major League Baseball Blue Jays star that just made his debut got suspended for uh
For
PEDs for 80,
PEDs.
80 games. But his
Yeah.
statement thinks the MLB should take a second look. And that statement reads, quote, for the past 2 years, I've been trying to start a family with my girlfriend. During the off season, we visited a fraternity clinic in the Dominican Republic after getting lab work done. We were prescribed a treatment which included a medication called Regen 50. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it contains a banned substance called, oh dear, Dr. Eyes, Evan, Chymophen? Chimphene. But we wanted to keep, continues to say, we wanted to keep this matter private, even within our family, and trusted the doctor who assured us the treatment did not include performance enhancing drugs. Therefore, I made the mistake of not disclosing this to my team or the MLBPA. With that being said, I also take full responsibility of my actions and my suspension. I want to apologize to my teammates in Buffalo, Toronto, the Blue Jays organization, most importantly, the fans who supported me during my career. That one, he starts off saying he wants a second look and he wants a second chance, but
Mhm.
he also accepts the responsibility to me,
Yeah.
a little
I
bit.
think I think it's a plea, but also accepts the fact that they don't have to, give a second look to it.
Yeah.
Um, if that statement is true, I'd put it in a similar light of Fernando Tatis Jr.,
Mm,
who I do believe, didn't realize what he was taking, which still is
yeah.
on the player, to make sure of that stuff. Or Chris Davis, with
With a
his
C or a K.
um with It's the one with the Orioles.
Oh, see, the
C
one that's
C.
somehow getting the most paid in retirement
Well,
funds.
so for him, what happened was he was taking I think it was Adderall for his
Mm,
ADHD or his ADD. I think it was ADHD.
I'm not sure.
Um, and for the first while when he was doing really well in MLB, he was on that, and MLB was fine with it. And then when he started getting really good, like really, really good, and he
They
signed his
have,
extension, then they cracked down on him with it. And he's like, I've been doing this whole thing, like I've been doing this whole time. And he's like, it's a medical necessity for me. So they forced him to go off of that, and then he was pretty bad. As somebody with ADHD, I can attest, like it definitely does matter if you're taking your meds.
yeah.
And I could definitely see how that would negatively impact somebody because your focus is just slightly off, with that.
Hmm.
And especially having to perform at that high of a level. So I
Yeah.
yeah. I think it would be interesting if you could go back and you could see how he would play without or with the meds,
Mm.
if there would
Well,
be a
that's kind
significant
of
difference there.
the same thing of back in the steroid era. How how well would these players play without those?
Mhm.
Supposedly, allegedly, okay? We
Right.
don't have because they didn't start testing till quite a while after these players that we're talking about
Yeah.
got out of the league, but they didn't start testing until after that point. So we
Right.
have no people claim all well, that's the first voice back in the day. People claim that um you have all these knowledge. I'm not saying it is or isn't, don't get me wrong here,
Mhm.
but we don't have a confirmation that there was because a lot of these players in that day and age, it was normal to be on
Right.
enhancing drugs.
I would say there were some estimates that about 20 or 30% of the league, both pitchers
Yeah.
and batters, were on PEDs. So, like, my argument always with the PEDs is guys like Barry Bonds, like, they
Mm-hmm.
were good before that. You look at him in Pittsburgh,
Mm-hmm.
he was a generational talent there. Even his first 2, 3 years with San Fran before he started juicing,
Yep.
allegedly. Um,
Allegedly, right.
but he was still, one of the best players in the league. Um, Mark McGuire wasn't bad before he started juicing. There's a lot of guys who were not bad at all. It's just once they did, they got better. But also at the same time, like Barry said, he kind of did that because like Mark and Sammy were getting all of, the press and everything. And he's like, I'm doing the same stuff as them, basically. Like, and if there's no punishment for it, why wouldn't you? Also,
Right.
except for your own morality of this is wrong or not. But you have guys like Clemens who were on it, Eric Gagne, like tons of guys who were just at the peak of their career doing this. These guys were already good before this. I can guarantee you Clemens, Bonds, McGuire, Sosa are all in the hole without PEDs. But also
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, that era really saved baseball a lot. The long gone
Mm-hmm.
summer, one of the reasons why baseball stuck around. And if you're going to put Bud Selig, who oversaw all of this, into the Hall of Fame for
You
saving
got to put some of
baseball, you
those.
need to put the players that he allowed to do this
Yeah.
that really saved baseball because he wasn't the one playing. Um, so
And
it's really fun. And I don't even care if you have your own branch of the Hall of Fame. And I've said this in the past. If you have your own branch of the Hall of Fame that's like these guys were PED users, but it doesn't matter.
put
There
an
aren't very many
asterisk.
guys who take PEDs who that's the only reason why they're good. You still have to be able to hit the ball or throw.